mean, it would just really set her life back and put it on a different path. And she's worked so hard to get it to this point. The other scenario is it's hers and she's using. Again, she'll get caught at school, there'll be arrest, and she's going to have, to deal with getting sober, and it's so much work for her that I don't want her to have to experience. Which is why I've told her whole life about what I went through, so she wouldn't have to go through it. And then the other, if it's not hers, if it's somebody she's sharing a locker with, well, then there's the concern of who she's hanging around with. We always think that we do a pretty good job as her parents of being aware of friends and things, but maybe we're not. Maybe we're failing. Maybe we're not. And is this some way my fault? Or like I said, there's different.
Now, why do you think it might be your fault?
Genetics.
Okay.
That. I know that there's different thoughts about people with addictions and alcoholism and things like that. And, maybe I pass something on to her that I'm not aware of, because of me. I don't know.
Okay. So you've got all these different scenarios that you've worked out in your head that could occur. Have you worked out any towards the other way? That it's not her drugs?
Well, yeah.
Or that she's not, that this is all something unknown from her?
I don't know then how else it would get in her locker. It would have to be something weird, like someone knows her locker combination, put the stuff in there, and told somebody else the combination so they could get it out later. And they would think, oh, nobody's going to check her locker because she's, a good student and all that. I don't know.
Is that a possibility?
Well, it's a stretch. It's a possibility, but it's a stretch.
So there's definitely something you're going to need to deal with. The drugs have been found. You know that. The drugs could or could not be hers. That's something you're going to have to discuss with her to determine which way it is.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Then you've also determined that you're concerned for it damaging your relationship with your wife because of all the memories it's going to bring back. So you're concerned with that. And then you're concerned with what is going to affect your daughter in the long term as far as her life. Because you have memories of what it's done in your past.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start 1, 2, 3, 4. Prioritize them. Which one is going to be the one that we need to address first?
Well, first we have to find out if it's hers or not. And I think that would be, just ask her.
Okay.
But then either way, and then I'm caught in another hard place. Let me just keep giving you problems. So let's say that I do ask her about it. And I'm like, hey, the school called about this. Was this yours? And she says, no, Dad, it wasn't. Okay. So part of me wants to take her at her word, which she's always been pretty honest with me. But then the other part knows that if you're on something, you're a lie. You're going to lie. So then do I say, okay, well, I believe you, but let's take this drug test just to be sure. Then that kind of puts some of that trust on the line, which if she didn't do anything, she did nothing to deserve that to happen.
Have to do the test?
I think my biggest problem, and I've been told this forever, is I think too much. I analyze every scenario that can happen, and usually I focus on the negative ones.
Right, which is why we need to work on these exercises when you go home. Try to calm yourself. Try to think more positive. As you said, you're trying to look for a positive way. The positive could be that this mistake, it belonged to somebody else. She had no idea that they were having that in there. And if she needs to choose her friends differently, we can all be surprised by friends, right?
And that's another thing.
They can take you by surprise.
Her friends are always over at our house. They always seem like really good kids. I've never noticed any of them acting like they're under the influence of anything. That's why this whole thing just caught me like a sucker punch. I just didn't.
So it sounds like there's not been any evidence, anything leading up to this that you can pinpoint or see that.
Just that they found it in her locker.
Okay, which is totally out of the blue.
Yeah, I mean, like nothing about it makes sense. But at the same time, how?
Now, what would your response have been had you not had a past with addictions and this had occurred? How do you think you would have handled? What would you have?
I actually honestly think I'm giving her more benefit of the doubt now than I would if I didn't have the problem.
Okay.
Because I know more about the situation.
Okay.
You know, I think that if I wouldn't have had that, I wouldn't be worried about my relationship so much with my wife, and I wouldn't be worried about if I in some way caused this with her. But I think I would be more of, hey, they found these, let's go get a drug test, what are you doing? I would probably jump the gun and automatically assume guilt, to be honest with you.
Okay. So most of this of what I'm hearing you say is you're feeling guilty that she's been caught, and somehow you have taken it all upon yourself and on your shoulders that she has gotten into this situation and what all the episodes that could occur because of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have assumed responsibility
Well,
for all of it.
But that's my kid. I'm responsible for her.
Are we not all responsible for our own choices and decisions?
Well, yes, we are, but at the same time, you know, like I just said, I mean, that's my kid. I'm responsible for what she does. And to me, if she grows up and she makes bad decisions, it's probably because in some way I failed to teach her something I needed to teach her.
Do you feel that occurred with you in your life?
Oh, yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I grew up in a very religious household where my parents didn't drink alcohol, anything like that. So when I got the opportunity and I was out on my own and I went to college, I went buck wild because there was all this stuff that I didn't even know about. I was just told, oh, well, it's a sin, that's why you don't do it.
Okay.
Well, so then as I got older and I went and did those things, I thought, well, lying's a sin. We all lie at times, so same thing. So I'm just going to go do this, you know. And so, no, I didn't have any sort of education on drugs or alcohol or what
So when, with your reasoning that you just stated there, your mom and dad were the reason responsible for you doing what you did.
No, I made my own choices.
Okay, so then why is your daughter not making her own choices?
I see that now. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, like we said, let's look at it more on one level. Instead of building that staircase that you're going all the way up here to the top, start on one level, calm down, de-stress a little with these exercises, and talk to your wife. I think that is important.
Yeah, I got to talk to her about it.
So maybe that is your first step. Step one, let your wife know what's going on. Okay? Right? Because you don't want anything hiding, or like you said, you don't want to cause any issues there.
Yeah.
Right? And then the two of you can discuss too, coming in here as a group therapy and talking to your daughter and discussing it, or doing it at home. Whatever's going to work best for you. I think maybe it would be a good idea to come in, whether you talk to her at home first or come in. But let's have a group therapy session your next session when you come in this next week. Let's come in, or even later this week, because it sounds like it might be a little urgent for you.
Yeah, it's kind of urgent. I mean, I think even after I leave here today, I'm gonna call my wife and tell her that we need to talk about something, and I mean, I'll just let her know what they found and see. I mean, again, it's like, it doesn't make sense for this kid to do that. She doesn't fit any of the, I don't know what you would call them, criteria or
signs,
mode
the
of
profile,
operations.
nothing was there.
Nothing that makes sense, but then it's there, you know. And I mean, and it was, it was pretty hard pills like OxyContin, and there were a couple other kinds in there, and the amount that I guess they found too, there were like 20-some pills in this baggie.
Now, was this just open?
And it was a baggie that was in her locker, and I guess they have dogs they go through to sniff things, and that's how they found it.
Okay.
So
Well, let's set up your appointment then. we can get you in here as soon as tomorrow if you want to.
Okay.
You want 2 days?
Well, yeah. Well, tomorrow, if we do it tomorrow, it might just be my wife and I, so we
Okay.
can kind of talk with you and figure out how we want to approach this with her.
Okay.
And then, I know you're busy, but then after that, maybe we'll decide if we want to talk to her at home or bring her in. But I think if I have my wife kind of on my side with it or along with me, it'll be a little easier.
Okay.
I'm just really concerned. I mean, I just don't.
And that's understandable. I mean, it's your daughter, and you love her, and you have concerns, and you have your past and your history, and it's flowing over. But let's just try to let's not go too far out there. Let's work on one step at a time. You talk to your wife, we'll set up an appointment, and we'll come in and start tomorrow. And before you leave, we're going to get you a list of those stress release exercises, and let's see how things go.
Okay. All right.
You feeling better now? Things calmer?
I think as good as I can at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath and kind of let her out, and it's not going to happen in one day, 1 hour, or anything like that. Let's just work on it. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right.